Hi, I'm Heather Thomas, and I would like to invite you to join me on a 6-month journey called Groundwork. Now, I'm the founder of Together Culture, and at Together Culture, we focus on the root cause of how we enable a more regenerative economy and society to emerge. And Groundwork is for you if this situation sounds familiar. You're definitely talented. You are so committed, and you're a very experienced regenerative change maker. And at the same time, you've often found yourself working on projects, programs with great groups of people. You've built collaborations, and there's so much momentum and enthusiasm when people begin to work on a project, when they begin to put a strategy together. And they're going in with their minds open and know that persistence is going to be required to do this and to do it well. Yet somehow, and it's so hard for you to put your finger on it, despite all of this collective wisdom, as you progress on the journey, momentum still seems to wane, commitment begins to flounder, and people are still utilizing the same language, but stuff just starts to dissipate. And that means that the impact that you know is possible just doesn't happen. Why? Why? Well, groundwork is designed for you to become a culture change specialist and to apply it to the world of regenerative economic change. It enables you to develop deep and rich collaborative skills, and it also helps you to make visible the invisible infrastructure that holds us together or limits our sense of possibility or potential. And that includes our attitudes, our beliefs, and our behaviors, our mental and our emotional behaviors that help us to make up a sense of how change actually works or doesn't work, that limits or expands our possibility, that enables true, deep, rich collaboration to happen or to stall. That's what groundwork does. And that's the journey that we invite you to come on with us at Together Culture over the course of the next 6 months. So what is Together Culture? Who are we at Together Culture? Well, we are regenerative change making specialists, and we focus on the culture change aspect of that. In aid of developing a more inclusive and ecological economy. It all started about 5 years ago in the place where I live, which is Cambridge in the United Kingdom. It's one of the most socially unequal cities in this country. And I woke up one morning and my neighborhood had literally been sold to a multinational private equity firm on the other side of the ocean. And it was about to become the life sciences district of Cambridge. And this traditionally working class neighborhood was a bit like, oh, here we go again. None of us had a voice. None of us, I guess, knew this was coming. And that includes the local council. But here we were. And it just felt like something has got to change. What on earth is going on with our economy that this is normal? Why don't we have any power over it? Why doesn't the average person have a very clear and direct route to be involved in this decision making? And that's what I've been wanting to understand more deeply. And for the most part, I mean, that's been my entire life and my entire career. I've spent all of my career, the intersection of culture and change. I studied history and anthropology. I worked in the intersection of culture and social change my entire life. I got my MBA in Copenhagen to better understand the system and also more regenerative and sustainable models of our system. I'm working on my PhD right now in economic anthropology. And I think the thing that's crystallized for me the most over that entire time is that, gosh, I don't have much interest in changing the system that exists. I am inspired by a quote from Gloria Steinem, and I kind of combine it with a quote from Buckminster Fuller in my brain, which is, I'm not fighting for a seat at anybody else's table. I'm really interested in setting a new one. How do we build a new system that's more fit for purpose? that ultimately renders the other one obsolete. And working on the root base of all of that change of transformation is culture. And when we understand what the economy is for, um, we start to realize, oh, well, we can build a new one. So what I mean by that is Together Culture views the economy as the structure, the system that enables us to live in community. So if community is two or more people who are living, two or more people who are committed to supporting one another's well-being, then the economy is the system that enables us to live in community. Um, it's not a law of nature. They're systems that humans build. It's a human system that's supposed to work for humans and all of life that we're interdependently interwoven and dependent upon. So what that means is if it's built by people, then it can be rebuilt by people, surely. And culture sits at the root of how the economy changes and how a new economy emerges, right? So culture, when we think of it as our values, our attitudes, our behaviors, this defines our purpose as a group of people. And so we design systems that enable us to deliver upon that purpose. And when we think about the economy from this perspective and economic transformation from this perspective, I get so excited because it is so inclusive, right? I mean, our culture is not something that is created by policy wonks. It is something that is part of each and every one of our lives. It's our collective creation. And from that perspective, everyone is already an economist. This is the power that we hold together. So how do we collaborate to really utilize that power, to step into our power, and to build a more regenerative system? If that interests you, then please join us on Groundwork. So what exactly is Groundwork? What is in this program? Well, Groundwork is actually a 6-month program, and it's for people who are already working within regenerative change and you're ready to go deeper. You come into Groundwork with a real scenario, an organization, a community, an initiative that you are genuinely working to develop a new strategy around. And that scenario, that anchors everything that you personally do in this program. So it's customized to you in that way. So the program moves through 4 actual phases, and we begin by building your collaborative skills. It is a collaboration skills toolkit, practical vocabulary and tools that begin to help you surface invisible dynamics that are going to make or break a group's ability to work together. That includes things like power dynamics and how to approach conflict and transform it into a creative tension, something that enables true, genuine, new ideas, possibilities, and ways of working to actually emerge, and participatory decision making. Anything but soft skills, the really hard stuff that very few of us know how to do really well. They're the foundation for everything, and they're the foundation upon which you can build a powerful change-making strategy. And from that foundation, we begin to build culture change strategies in this program. So that's stuff like narrative change and story mapping, the tipping point strategy. How do you move away from scale to gathering the right people and doing just enough to enable wide scale change to actually be rooted? These frameworks are evidence-based and directly applicable to your context. And having the collaboration foundation underneath them is really what makes the difference between understanding a concept like co-creation in a light touch way and being able to embody co-creation and to facilitate it in a deep way, and to be able to bring collaboration skills into your co-creation so that you can move beyond co-creating to really be building coalitions of collaborators who are co-designing together. The program runs as 13 2-hour digital sessions. And they land pretty much every fortnight with some time allowed for holidays in between. And in between those 2-hour sessions, you get some guided reflection work so that you can bring it in to the work that you're doing outside of the sessions. And you also have 5 moments where you can come together with your peer groups, because a big part of this is also developing relationships with like-minded folks who are facing similar challenges so that you're learning and growing and sharing with one another. And the output of all of Groundwork is something that we are calling the cultural change blueprint, basically a plan revolving around your specific scenario that you can begin to implement when you are done with Groundwork. And so every single session is designed to create a part of that cultural blueprint. So you're developing it, you're working on it throughout the course of the Groundwork journey. So what will you build precisely? What are the components of this culture change blueprint that we've been talking about? Well, the culture change blueprint, this is your plan. This is your implementation plan for how you do the wonderful work that you've been doing, but you add this extra depth, these extra roots that are the elements of culture change. So what the components actually are as you move throughout the program of Groundwork are your culture change story. So your change story, the narrative that currently exists, how you identify that narrative, and how you figure out what the levers are for actually shifting that story that kind of brings to life the moments of disorientation, of the change that you want to achieve and the invisible attitudes that people are actually bringing into the room, and how you can realign. Your mental models toolkit, right? What the heck is a mental model? How do I use language and how do I use tools that help people to identify what their mental models are in relationship to the change journey that everybody is saying that they want to go on? It's not about you becoming everyone's psychologist. It's about talking about elements of what the attitudes, beliefs, the ways that we come into the room and we make sense of what we're actually experiencing that maybe we're not even aware of, so that as a group we can become aware of it and we can unblock blockages that we don't even realize exist. We help you to put together, understanding all of that, your theory of change in relationship to the culture that exists and the change that you're wanting to see in the wider world. And then we help you to put together your tipping point map. So this is a lot of letting go of this scaling deep and big and voluminous problems that we have, these ideas, this attitude that we all have that bigger is better, and maybe it's not actually. So we focus on what we know from network science about how tipping points and big social and cultural change actually work. So it's about how we employ that to deeply root this culture change and gather enough people to begin to build a bit of a groundswell. And so from that, then obviously we're going to move into your community framework. So what is community? Together Culture always describes community as a group of people who are actively engaged in promoting one another's well-being. So it means you're actively engaged in something that is purposeful. So who is your change-making community? And then what are the elements of actually designing a purpose-driven community? It doesn't just happen overnight or quote unquote organically. Organic and organized have a similar root for a really good reason. There's a design structure there. So we help you to map out what that infrastructure really looks like. And then the ultimate product is your 90-day pathway. So your implementation plan to take the work you've been doing in Groundwork and employing it in the real world, in the real scenario that you brought into this program to begin with. That's your culture change blueprint. As we've been saying, Groundwork runs over 6 months. So I really hope that helps to reflect the depth of this program, but also how it's been designed to incorporate into your working world, to allow you space to reflect and to allow you space to begin to implement and experiment with the tools that you're building over time. The way that it's structured is that we have 2-hour digital sessions that are interactive. There are some elements of taught work within it, but we really get deep into doing ASAP. And we really try to lead with really practical ideas and then support them with frameworks. So you're not just sitting there listening and absorbing new frameworks and new models, but you are playing with and embodying different ways of doing things and putting them into practice, even in those 2-hour sessions. And those 2-hour sessions happen every fortnight. There are some gaps depending upon the time of year that you join, because if a large holiday falls within that time period, then we allow a few extra weeks or an extra week in between our sessions, because we want to be realistic about the time that people have and the rest that everybody needs to take. Now, in between our 2-hour live sessions, we provide you with some guided work, so you can help to be practicing what you've learned, but then of course applying it right to the practical scenario that you've brought into the situation. So working on your cultural blueprint in the session, but also working on your cultural blueprint outside of the session. So at the end of Groundwork, you are ready to hit the ground running if you haven't even started doing so already. Now, it's super important, for me at least, that you know that we are maxing out participation at 10 people. We are really hoping that with every cohort of Groundwork that there's a very committed crew who are building relationships with one another and who are in the same storm but different boats, so that you can be learning from one another and developing a super supportive network and a community unto itself that has a lifespan that lives far beyond the 6 months of Groundwork. From a financial capacity, we are asking for a £1,500 commitment to go on this journey across these 6 months. We realize that scarcity is real and that everyone might not have £1,500 to hand. So talk to us if this program seems exactly the right thing for you, and we'll make an installment plan or a solidarity pricing available to you. So this is the Groundwork journey. We are going to get started by helping you to find your ground. Take a fun little quiz to get a sense of, in relationship to Groundwork, where you stand now. We have a free workshop called Find the Story, which you may have already taken, that helps you to understand stories and what mental models actually are, what we're aware of, what we're not aware of, and how we can shift those stories. Then we have a workshop called Less is More. It's only £37 to take, and it is a journey to help you understand tipping point science, and how maybe scaling big isn't necessarily the best strategy, and kind of frees you up to focus on core groups of people and how that might actually be more impactful for developing and delivering a culture change strategy that can transform everything else upstream. And then the logical next step is an assessment call before you even start Groundwork. So we want to get on a digital call with you, and we want to learn more about your specific scenario to make sure that we find the right place and the right fit for you within Groundwork. It is designed to meet you where you're at. And we also want to make sure that every element of Groundwork is customized so that it isn't just something generic. So we really want to be pulling together a cohort of people that are going to work incredibly well with one another, and that aspects of the Groundwork program can be customized to this group. Everything that we do is really relational. That's who we are at Together Culture. Ultimately, we're talking about people, how people come together with purpose, how we understand who we are, how we make change happen, and how we live in a regenerative way. And from our perspective, that's how we redesign the economy. We are all economists now, and I really hope you join us on Groundwork, and I hope that you find it to be the means by which you just stop absorbing the resistance and find new ways to fully step into the power and the amazing capability that I know and you know you really have. You're invited to Groundwork. I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.